I've been struggling through this, but that's when it gets to be the most fun. Like, just look at how terrible. I mean, I say that. Look at how bad. I don't know what I'm doing here, right? And so I just continued to look over and try and break down. So you can start to see what I'm trying to do here is very much like what we did 2 weeks ago, right? So, well, it's a combination of what we did 2 weeks ago, trying to break down this tiger head into something that's a little bit more geometric. This is probably a little too geometric, although, you know, I think it's cooler than the Voltron thing we were looking at. Didn't I have more sketches in here? Oh yeah, this is where I started. So, you know, trying to break this down geometrically, trying to think about where hinges might be. You know, there's kind of the Voltron inspiration, but I feel like, you know, this is maybe a little bit cooler, trying to figure out these proportions. One thing that I might suggest is that you might notice, you know, I'm just kind of fudging in some kind of foot right here in this little thumbnail. And that just made me realize, you know what, I need to figure out what this foot actually might look like. And so I just drew a tiger paw, and then I looked up an eagle talon just to figure out what was happening there. And I think I've got a pretty interesting idea as to how to combine those two into a couple of feet. And then I just realized, you know what, I'm figuring out the head. I'm getting somewhere with the head. Really hard-edged, rectilinear, well, triangles. The earlier one had a little bit more kind of nuance and a little bit more curvature. This one has a little bit more curvature. I did a couple on my digital sketch pad upstairs, which, if you're interested, I have like a 32-inch Wacom Cintiq upstairs and this awesome swivel arm, which actually inspired some of what's happening through here. You might come take a peek at it, but I just set it up this week and it's pretty cool. But it made me realize, okay, well, I have no idea what's going on with the body. And so I tried to draw the body maybe from a back view, only just looking at those details, what can happen here, and how I can break maybe this, what's an eagle body in proportion, and how does that maybe relate. I kind of liked what started to happen with this sketch with respect to the body. But then I said, I just really need to kind of dig down deep and look a little. Now it's starting to feel like a chicken. But a combination of these two sketches leads me to where I am now. So I'm going to kind of continue maybe for about 20 or 30 minutes just trying to resolve some of what's happening right here. You'll also notice that some ideas are kind of popping into my head. Like, I actually initially drew this where the leg is coming way down here, and then I went and looked at some pictures of tiger legs, and you know, that back leg on a tiger, that's a pretty thick thigh, like lots of muscle back in there. And so this is getting maybe a little bit too thin, and I really like this proportion. Although there's something in here, right? I'm starting to feel what should happen compared to this, right? So even if you start here, this is a slow progression, and now I'm just super excited about where this can go. And I'm feeling it. I'm feeling like maybe where some hinges can happen, where maybe this will probably be a ball and socket joint, at least that's what I'm thinking here. This proportion is maybe a little bit too big, but ultimately I'm getting to the point where I feel like I've got some ideas. Where my tail will break up, I can actually kind of cut those little cylinders with these little, you know, kind of accordion things in the middle of it, and make those cuts look like tiger stripes, and then I can kind of transition into those tiger stripes in the body. What I would encourage you to do, and I don't know how to play music and have this up here, but I'd encourage you just to start sketching. Use this time, you know, check out what I'm doing, but this is going to be a slow sketch. I mean, I'll walk and I'll kind of talk through some things. You might see one interesting aspect, right? So these straight edges are fairly easy to draw. Excuse me, drawing this is a lot easier than trying to put, you know, a little bit more curvature into these things. But this body, like, I've got an idea. I kind of want it to be, the torso to be cylindrical, or, you know, kind of what's the right word? Kind of a squish cylinder, but then having these two cylindrical elements come out to the side for where the thighs are. That's not easy to draw. Like I struggled trying to figure out how do you construct it. Let me walk you through this construction. So this is just a cylinder that gets a little bit fatter in the middle. And then if I can, I'll show you what I was thinking as far as the other cylinders and where that transition comes in. So this is part of last week. So I've got a cylinder, but I'm going to add some body to it. And then I found kind of this center line along the cylinder. So here's the minor axis for the original cylinder. And then I found a center point, and I actually walked over along. I made sure I understood, what's happening with perspective and convergence. Here a line's going towards the left vanishing point. Obviously, this is going towards the right vanishing point. But what I did was I walked over a distance here, so I'm looking at this distance. And I walked back a distance here. And so this is kind of, I'm foreshortening, so I'm not doing the X method or diagonal method in here, but I'm just guessing as to where that should be. And then I walked just kind of straight down, and then pull this point down, right? So basically what I have here, what you're looking at here is I've got these two square surfaces, well, not two rectangular surfaces that I'm intending to be mirrored, right? So this side is, this distance is equal to that distance. And so now I can draw a minor axis. This is my new minor axis up to that point, and I can draw another minor axis coming down here, and you can see that's where I put this ellipse, which I can't even think of, and I don't think it's ultimately that important, what that chord would be, but then I know this one's going to be really thin, like a really thin ellipse, a really fat ellipse back there, and then that gave me an ellipse here, an ellipse that I cut at an angle back here, and basically now I'm generating that form, right? So I've added some meat back here. I've kind of thought about this being a little bit larger ellipse, but it's a way for me to start to generate what that form needs to be in kind of a little bit cleaner, weird elliptical shape. Does everybody kind of see that construction? And so now it's a matter of, all right, well, I want to play with the proportions. I'm going to try and construct this the same way. It looks like I need some more space, so I'm probably going to flip my sketchbook up on its side. Let's see, I'd rather do it this way. And try and pull together these ideas that there's bits and pieces of ideas that are working themselves through this whole thing. You'll notice here I haven't even figured out where the wings are going to go, so I still have to kind of figure out what's happening with the wings. But that's this process, which let me also say, I was sharing with Shay this morning, part inspiration coming from Midjourney, but that this is proving to be a little bit more challenging than I thought from day one, and a lot of the challenge here is that I'm trying to figure out proportion, and I'm trying to figure out the blend of tiger versus eagle and what this thing is. More than likely, you should probably just choose one animal, or and not do this. It's not a requirement that you choose two animals and try and merge them together in some abomination, right? This is my suggestion would be that you pick one animal that's already defining what those proportions are and just turn it into a robot, right? Okay. Questions? Rusty is feeling better, but he's still out today. What else do we want to see? I think maybe before I jump into drawing this whole thing in perspective over here, I do want to, I like this. I like the simplicity of this, but I feel like maybe this proportion's a little tall, and maybe I could put some curvature into it, right? Maybe I could think about some of the transitions. Maybe I could even have kind of a cool transition back here. I don't know. So I'm gonna continue to work on this head maybe one more time and reference some of the things that I've done leading up to this. Maybe I can put a curve, the snout, I don't know. Let's try a little bit more. I don't know whether or not I want this brow, like the forehead. What do y'all think? Do you think that's necessary for this tiger?
I think so.
See, this one looks pretty cool. This little thumbnail actually came before this sketch. But I think that head looks kind of cool. It's got that Voltron vibe to it. Let's see. I'll try and put a little bit of a kick in there. But you'll also notice. So what I hope you're getting from just looking at this struggle is where I am employing all the techniques that we've talked about in perspective drawing. Like, I don't necessarily need to pull all those techniques in right here. There's not a whole lot of construction happening, but then I get to this point and you can see, you know, trying to build those blocks up and then round things off or soften things off. This is, you can see the construction, right? You can see those lines going towards the left vanishing point. I guess there's not a single line that actually goes directly towards the right vanishing point. I don't need it. So this is all a matter of what do you need to construct these things, and only use what's necessary. I did need some construction here, right? I don't think I could generate that form. I could look at something and figure, I could look at something and probably draw it if it was already in this shape. But trying to construct and understand that form and what's happening with these transitions, I was only really able to do through constructing it in this way. But let's try and do another tiger head. What I've kind of found is that there's I'm going to draw a line towards the right vanishing point. I want to look kind of down on this. So this is going to be my nose. And what I've noticed is that I can start with a little bit of a width, and then I'm going to draw something it's not quite vertical, it's angling back. And then, let's see, what I did there is I just came, I'm going to draw a line in that represents the angle kind of the forehead, but we said we probably need that brow in there. How far that snout needs to go, I'm not quite sure, but I'm going to go ahead and draw in a couple of lines there. And then this thing's going to get wider as it comes back. It's probably a little too far. And then it's going to step up. So I'm going to step up there and then continue back a little bit more. So I'm trying to take this angle and just guess what it's like when it steps back. And then I do like this idea of maybe incorporating, I think it looks kind of neat when the ears to some degree are a part of this line, like just keeping that line and let that be a portion of the ear. That's one of the things that I thought was kind of cool here. I also think that's maybe one of the reasons this looks a little bit more like a bobcat or a mountain lion. I'm not really sure, but I can always change that. Right now, that's what I want to play with. So let's carry that back. Maybe I could even put a curve coming back that way. Let's see, what do I want to do for the side? What do you think? Do I need this step? Do I need this step coming out here? Or can we go straight like I did here? Thoughts? I'm open. The step? Okay, so probably what that means is I need to actually angle this out a little bit more. And then put that step in there. And so somewhere, I don't know exactly where, let's see, I kind of liked what was happening here. I've also noticed that some of these sketches where I've got a little bit of a frown, and I don't remember, well, it must have been on the other one, where I've got a little bit of a frown in the side here, helps it out. So I'm going to try and incorporate that frown. So there's the top lip. Maybe that needs to be a little bit taller. And then what I can do with this is I can imagine that this detail that's rolling around right here, I'm going to let that be an element that, right now I'm drawing it without the bottom jaw in. Let's see, what do I want to do with that? So I'm kind of looking at that as this detail. So this is part of what we were talking about making it believable that it could be a robot. You can get away with putting like putting segments and space in between and a little gasket in there. I'm getting away with kind of hiding what's happening with the mechanism here, but just saying, hey, this is going to move up and down, and maybe it's got an opportunity to rotate. But I'm not going to put the hinge in there. I'm just going to assume that hinge is somewhat hidden. And I think I'm going to do the same thing here. So ultimately, there would be kind of some negative space back in here. I don't really like where this is headed. I think I need a greater angle. And then the eye can follow along. I don't really like where this is headed. And then the other thing that I've kind of noticed, and this came a little bit more from looking at the tiger that's in the Jungle Book. What's the name of the tiger in the Jungle Book? Y'all remember? Shere Claw?
Shere
Khan. Is that tigers don't have like a mane. They've almost got like this old man, I shave half my beard thing back in here. It's not a full mane. It's just kind of this almost like really long sideburns that come down to their jaw. And I don't know what to do with that. I actually think that I like what was happening. Maybe that's what I really liked about that one drawing. I don't know, this doesn't look like a tiger anymore. It looks like an Egyptian something or another. You know what? I'm not gonna leave those ears. I'm gonna pull them out. What about this? What about that? So just trying to pull in a little bit more curvature. And then we have emphasized so many times, you know, the importance of proportion in sketching. And most of the time you've been sketching something, at least when we talked about proportion, did you get the proportion right? That's what I'm wondering right now with this tiger. And I'm looking at this side view, and I actually kind of like that side view better. I like what's happening there. How do I do that? I'm abandoning this. This looks like a bear, Egyptian, something or another. I think I might be able to pull in some of those details that are on tigers. Maybe I need the bottom jaw. That's helping. It's helping it look more like a bear. All right, I'm done with that one. Let's try and get this proportion. So one thing that I'm going to try and do, this is a little bit of a trick. So I like this proportion, right? I like what's maybe happening here. I'm going to try and combine this really small thumbnail with what's happening there. So let's see if I can do that. And since I like that proportion, as opposed to starting my sketch out with like this downward 3/4 looking perspective, I'm going to start it out thinking about those 3 cubibles where I'm seeing more of the side view of this tiger. And I'm actually going to start with this line. And I'm going to have a steep line going towards the left vanishing point. And I'm going to come back in and repeat that line. And my vanishing is going to be quick. This is coming back at this angle. I'm not going to see a lot of the snout with this one. Let's see, proportion, that's probably not quite far enough. I'm going to add a little bit of curvature along the top. So what I just said, I hope, I mean, if you're sketching, that's okay. If you're not, I hope you're paying attention. One of the things that I just thought about when I put this center line in goes back to some of those exercises we did this summer where it was like, okay, if I'm drawing a curved surface, I can show that curved surface with this curve and that curve, but if I put a center line in there and I just bias it towards the other side, it's going to show that curvature. And so that's what I'm trying to do right here, is that without even putting in like this curve right here, that curve right there, you can start to see that I'm picking up more on this surface and I'm picking up on some of that crown. Does that make sense? Hopefully? No? That's all right. I'm having fun. All right, so here, maybe what I like about this is the way that the mouth leads into that beard thing. So I'm going to try to draw that full kind of extension back. What do you think so far? Is this heading in a good direction? So now I need, maybe what I like about this is this just kind of really slotted eye. And then I'm ultimately going to need the bottom okay, now we're on to something. My old boss would say, now you're cooking with some steam. I don't know why he'd say that. Now you're cooking with some steam.
I've always heard gas.
Yeah, he said steam. All right, where did I put? So I put, you know, this is where this exercise to me is a lot of fun, right? So I've got this interesting form, and I'm cool with it. And so now I want to simulate kind of, I don't want to draw individual hairs, but I want to simulate that this is, you know, kind of that little mane thing. And so what are some small details I can put in here to make it feel like it's a tiger, and that's that little tiger mane. Okay, I mean, I feel like that's enough for me to move forward. That's got a Pokemon vibe to it, doesn't it? How to Train Your Dragon. So it's got a dragon vibe to it.
The curve of the head.
Yeah. So also notice I'm trying to define what's happening with the surfaces. So I'm putting these contour lines in there. I'm going to step back, have that kind of kick out. It's going to be a chamfered detail, and then that steps in right there. And so those little lines just help me read what's happening with the surface. Okay, so let's get to the hard part. Oh, you know what You know what I think I can do? Oh, see, here's the designer in me standing. If I look at the front of the snout, Like right here, this one of the things I've been struggling with a little bit is the relationship of this, which is still fairly kind of rectilinear, hard-edged, and then this is a very soft form. It's still geometric based, but one thing I could do is maybe what I can think about is how, if I look at this front surface, which I haven't really defined very well here, what if that front surface is still kind of flat? So this is my snout. And so it's got maybe a little bit of a contour to it. But then as it comes down, instead of being straight and blocked off, what if I round this off? Like the bottom of the mouth. And then I can translate that into this body where maybe instead of that body being a full cylinder, I cut the top of the cylinder off and give it kind of the same curvature. So that's what I'm moving towards. Therefore, I'm trying to relate this a little bit more to the shape of the body. So I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little intimidated right now. So let's go. Here's a right vanishing point, but I want some curvature in the body. So I'm going to try and build an elliptical shape out here. I'm not leaving enough room for my head. I'm going to build this is kind of what I'm thinking about as the neck, shoulder area. And I'm using this curvature as kind of a minor axis. So that minor axis is shifting as it's going back. What I really want is it's going to get, let's just draw another one, another ellipse kind of right in here. And remember, now I can use this ellipse to define, that's angled back a little bit, to define my left vanishing point. Right? So now I'm using that, and I'm trying to make sure that I'm keeping all of this. I'm just going to go ahead and put in a bunch of little vanishing lines going towards that left vanishing point. So what I realized here, I don't know. What do you think about this versus this? If this is A and this is B, which one do you think is working better? I could maybe cut it. Maybe I can cut it off instead of there. What if I cut it off there? So I'm going to do the same somewhat construction method right here. So I'm thinking that leg and that thigh, here's where I am going to just do some construction. So I want it to be in line from the side with that, or at least the minor axis. And so I'm just going to step out here and step back here, equidistance, foreshortened. I don't know if this is exactly what I want, but now this is going to be the minor axis for the thigh. Right? Y'all see that? And I know that this is going to be a real thin one. Again, you know what? I'm going to step it up just a little bit. So here, I want it to be a little bit wider and larger. And what I'm ultimately going to do is I'm ultimately probably going to come back into that. And just like I did here, I'm trying to draw just a straight cylinder. Here's this other side. I've moved it up, so that should be the center point. Here's my minor axis, so I'm using that. And I'm not even going to see this back here, but this is going to help me visualize what's happening. So there's the thigh on the other side. Let's see, this is the top of this thing. I've decided, one thing that I've decided since I did that last drawing is that my tail, the tail as opposed to kind of coming down off of the spine, I actually just kind of want it, running up into almost in line with the backbone. But how do I do that if I'm going to cut this thing off? So what I mentioned earlier is that I'm really interested in maybe giving the back of this a little bit more of a flat. A little bit more of a flat. So I'm going to take that down just a little bit. Here's going to be I'm going to sketch that in darker so you can see it. So I've got this for the neck, and that neck is now kind of a D shape. And I got a little bit of a curve, but somewhat of a flat top. And see, I think, maybe you can see this now, I'm trying to relate this form and this surface to kind of the top of the head. So eventually those should begin to work together. And what this might do that would be pretty cool is way back here, where this rolls around, this is going to come back up. Let me draw in an ellipse in here. This is kind of the back of the body. You can see I'm building up that mass. And maybe it's going to do this and get a little bit thinner, but then at the top where I'm cutting this thing, I can have a detail where that tail is going to intersect my body. And now I can draw kind of what I want that tail to do coming back. And I'll put a center line running through kind of this elliptical tail, and I'll begin to divide this tail up with ellipses as I move back along the tail. So you can start to see what's happening, right? I should be able to visualize a little bit. So now, and this is cutting ellipses at weird and awkward angles, which in all honesty doesn't matter that much, but if I was to draw something there and then think about what this section is kind of coming around like so, what I want to do is I want to put this ellipse at an angle. So I'm hitting this kind of tangentially out there, and that's going to give me kind of this ball and socket joint that's going to lead into the leg. So I'll let that leg, so from my hip, so that's my hip, this is my thigh. And I want it to change direction. So I want that thigh, even though it's coming in at this angle, I want that thigh, I want my leg to kind of come down. Let's see, what do I do here? Yeah, so that's actually extending out a little bit, somewhat right here. So I want this leg doing this number. And if I put in an ellipse that's kind of a little bit more horizontal, that gives me something to work with. But what I really want to have happen here is I want this organic, I think that this fish mouth thing is really cool. So I'm going to try and draw a fish mouth where this rolls around. And if I continued this around this way, then this would come back around like so. So there's my fish mouth, and that's going to leave me an opportunity to have kind of motion. There's like some negative space in there that'll let me put this kind of hydraulic detail down in there. I haven't figured everything out, but I've figured out enough to know that that's what I want. So, everybody following along? Kind of? Maybe? So this is, I'm seeing the inside of this. And then this is kind of the center line. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this hinge detail right here.
Jared, does it have to be like concept of in Mars?
Not really. Mine is, my concept I've decided is just this thing that goes around and scares opponents' mascots.
So it can be anywhere or for anything?
Yeah, I just want a cool robot. Yeah, this thing just goes around and scares. What's the LSU Tiger's name? Mike the Tiger. This thing just goes around and scares Mike the Tiger.
So it's a prank bot?
What does he look like?
No, it scares them. It terrorizes them. It will eat them.
That's exactly what I wanted.
So here's where I feel like I need a little bit of construction. What I'd like to do, just a second. What I'd like to do is find the location of this, which is going to be my ankle basically. I want to find the location of this ankle on the back side. So I'm going to take let's see, it was right here. I'm going to take that center line and carry it all the way down, and then I'm going to take this ellipse and take the center of that ellipse and carry it towards the back vanishing point. And what I'm trying to do now is evaluate how far this is and try and figure out what that distance is towards the back, which was a little bit further than where that original ellipse was. And even though I'm not going to see this, what I want to do, because it's going to lead into where the other foot is on the back side, is I want to put the mirror of this ellipse right here back there. And now I got to figure out what's happening with the ankle. So from somewhere in here, I'm just going to have a center line. I think what I want to have happen is kind of a hydraulic cylinder that's coming up like that. And so this is giving me my minor axis for that hydraulic cylinder. It's going to be a really thin ellipse. I sketch that in lightly. And that probably needs to be a little bit longer. Let's see. And then some detail like this. And then I'm going to have kind of a couple of places where I'm going to need kind of a hinge detail, and I'll figure this out. This little detail right here is probably going to require some additional, just exploratory sketches on just what's happening between here and then what I have figured out, which is I'm going to do this foot that's kind of a dome. And then on the front of that dome, I'm going to put these elliptical elements that feel a little bit like, I'm going to say it, the Clemson tiger paw, that there's some recessed surface in there, and then I got these just talons that I want to come out, kind of going towards the center line. So I'm not much further along than I was over here. I just feel a little bit better about the proportions. I feel a little bit better about this top surface and whatever's going to happen with that top surface. I still haven't figured out what's going to happen with my wings. I still don't know exactly what's going to happen with the interaction between a neck and this. But I do feel better about where this is. So that foot, some of the construction that I did a little bit earlier, that foot is going to be out in front directly. It's a smaller ellipse. And my head's probably going to get in the way of a good bit of that foot, but I can kind of see where it is, right? So I've got my stance. All right, now we got to draw that head. So here's the head that I want to put. So I'm going to step forward. So I'm thinking about the center line. I'm going to come forward a little bit, and I'm actually going to put this up above I want that up above where the I guess the shoulders are. So here's the curvature. This time I'm drawing that center line first. And that's going to take me forward about yay far. I'm thinking about convergence here. And now I can draw in this curvature. Right there. Does it need to get a little wider? Needs to get a little bit wider. Here's the cut in for the ears. And then this snout is almost going to disappear. Let's see. Maybe my ears need to go back a little bit further. My ears need to go back just a little bit further. And then this interesting beard detail. Here's this rolling over. Does this look like an armadillo now? Oh no. A rat? Tyrannosaurus tiger?
On canvas, you said that you wanted us to do 5 spreads, but of 2 animals. Right?
Yeah, I want you dedicating 10 pages in your sketchbook to 2. If you do 1 animal and you realize and you only do 1 spread and you realize that's not working, move on to the next one.
Sounds good.
All right, so I need some tiger stripes. It does. It looks like a rat. This is terrible. We'll fix that. The tiger stripe.
Yeah, I mean, once with the stripes and the wings, I think it's a fine.
Looks exactly like the long grass.
That helps.
That's what I'm thinking of.
That helps. Right?
You can draw his mouth open.
Well, I think we kind of need a snout. Like the snout that defines it as a cat would help. But here's what I was looking for from you last week. So I'm sorry we don't have it to look at. Look how, I mean, this is an interesting form. I think at the end of the day, I'm pretty happy with what's going on with this form. But here's where you've got those options and surface transitions, right? So I could put a fillet that runs along this edge. I could put a big fillet up here, or I could fillet in this direction. Oh yeah, you know what? I forgot what I was gonna do, and it's not gonna show up here, but I wanted to put, an elliptical shape kind of down there on the bottom that translated into some of the other things through there. I don't know. We're getting there. We're getting there. Let's put. Unfortunately, my view is going to be. It's going to be kind of interesting with the talons and these details right here are probably not at a good. The talons in my feet are in the same place, so I got a whole bunch of visual noise happening right there. if I did this? And then my neck. My neck is a little bit more circular. So my neck is going to be made up of kind of these circular elements that run down into this. And I need some kind of material thickness here. And I don't like that transition. I don't like what's happening with this blunt edge just yet. Man. So now I got to figure out what's happening with the wings. I've been putting that off. I like this. How do I do that? Have I changed this too much? This is where my Scott Robertson training really comes into handy. I think I'm just gonna have to figure out the wings a little bit later. What should happen with the wings? Maybe I've got this kind of opening right here. Hey, this is coming together. All right, so what needs to happen with these wings? Which way are they moving? This probably should be a ball and socket joint as well. That's somewhat leaning back. I gotta figure this out. I don't know it yet. I don't know what's gonna happen right there. I think I got the wings down, like what I want the wings to be. And just playing with the proportion of the wings. To me, you know, we've been talking about character in class. To me, this swing right here is what defines this as an eagle.
I know. I don't know if I did it all, but
Shoot the 9 hour day. Yeah. Is he like a Trojan horse? We said
Yeah.
like
I'm gonna skip the orange look at
Why would you do that to an elf? Poor guy.
yeah, that's a random wild.
He's still feeling. He still has feelings. He's kind of racist. Yeah, her line making her racist. That's gotta be racist. She's just doing. This is like the How many times have we had to have this conversation? No racial injustices in robotics. I will not say that.
Caroline's sketch.
I think. You mean her manifesto?
Or the sketch.
The first 3 pages are all words.
I don't like how flat his body is right now.
I don't want to talk about it. He's had a rough day.
Bro, he's off the booth in this one. That dude's stuff.
That's definitely racist.
How is that racist?
Just look
Is that a dude?
Yeah. And then people standing in his eyes.
This dude's straight up off the booth in this. He is.
Let me see your sketches.
Mr. Krabs, what'd you put in this?
I drew them from the wrong.
Oh, you want to see my sketches? Want to see my sketches?
It's pretty simple. I should do that.
The cheese in my fridge be like. No.
Sorry, but he's already done them.
I'm doing a whale too. Just don't do it.
All right. I think it's time for me to start over.
The wings look nice.
You don't like it?
The wings look nice.
I mean, I think it's getting there. Again. So right here, I don't know what's happening. I feel good about the legs
I think maybe
and the
legs are
thigh.
too skinny, too quick.
Too skinny, too quick.
I think that's
really
what
like
that's
that.
what did the shape where you were saying it looks kind of
The
like
wings look
like something else.
like fairy wings.
Like if it's thick up top, I think
Fairy
it's
wings as
Like,
opposed
thin, the body.
too thin in here.
They're like, yeah, where it connects to the
Ah,
bigger.
okay. So I need to do this. I kind of drew that. If y'all remember the.
you posted on yours.
Ah, yeah. That wing. Thank you. And there's also, and you know what? This actually needs to be. I've been thinking about it coming. I think it needs to come up like that.
That and maybe even where the hole that's coming out of needs to be bigger.
I was trying to figure out some kind of transition into there. Let's go back to this one. So that needs to be larger. I don't know. Somewhere in here. Somewhere in here is the ultimate mascot hunter.
Just be
So now, does he run or does he fly?
He hunts.
Just imagine that coming out.
His wings are just for like,
You should make them
like slices.
with
Feel like weapons.
fly walk. Yeah.
What's that?
Don't do that. That's a bad idea. I wanted to try a duck, but make it like a bus so it could fly walk.
I'm
Absolutely.
I'm filing against your racist against Kareem cheese. Kareem cheese. Totalitarian state of ours. That's your favorite? Against Korean cheese.
What else?
The key name sketch was what theirs.
E/Westport. It's one of my favorite sketches.
Single McCringleberry.
About a state penitentiary.
It's like construction noises. Torque.
I kind of like this head on here, but this looks nothing like a leopard head. So maybe
Bro,
you just more
my staple.
Say it more. Dude, why'd you design a staple?
It's a flip-flop toaster, but
Their tricks.
I may actually have to throw some marker on this.
These are all the names you have to do. Like that.
I mean, Jamar's Jamar, Jamar's
We're talking about the heel spine, right?
yeah, they have like. Say it.
Dan Smith.
Let's see. Dude.
Okay, so one other thing to be just considering and thinking about as you go through this exercise is you're supposed to do 2 poses, right? So I think, I think this one, which is just, I'm in an athletic pose, I'm ready to hunt. And then I probably would need one. Have y'all ever seen those photographs where an eagle is flying like right at you and the wings are just open and the talons are kind of coming?
But like it's roaring.
I feel like I need to do that. Yeah, I think this one.
You think like its legs are like tucked back or like out to grab it?
I think they're able to rotate forward, out, in.
Get like tuck into the body.
It is a good question because now I've got to figure out how that actually would work. But it could come forward. All right, I don't like his butt. How are yours coming?
Terrible. I'm not even gonna lie.
Hey,
My leopard
can I remind
is
you?
like an anaconda.
Can I remind you of something?
Jeffrey Epstein.
But this looks nothing like
That's
a
an
leopard
alligator.
head. It looks more like
That's
an
an
anaconda.
An anaconda.
No.
No.
Are you a furry or something?
So this is a water filtration whale that cleans marsh water and provides filtration and sanitization.
That's so sustainable.
Mine's just a submarine.
I love this. This is great.
Your haircut. Been going like that.
She's getting a buzz.
I'm gonna pretend this
She's gonna like
never.
cyberpunk like shave side of her head and like come over her side.
Every year, Queen of England died. That's a great back. Yeah, it's like the Queen of England died.
Wait, really?
She did.
Yes.
Seriously?
America.
Not confirmed, but BBC has gone black and canceled programming until 6.
There was a medical thing for her this morning though. They're like they were restricting her like visitation with other people. So they're like holding her in a certain place. I don't know if she's dead. The thing goes is that she's been dead for like months and they're just not telling everybody.
Yeah, that's.
Wasn't she in public? Yeah, but on a Thursday?
How dare you die on Thursday? That's not how the British die. We die on Friday. Liam, how does that make you feel? How does that make you feel? Queen Elizabeth passed.
Is she actually dead?
Well, you're part British.
So
You're part
this
British.
is one of those moments you'll remember. Where were you?
We were in a lecture.
We were looking. We were looking at some abomination of God.
He has it on recording, two of us going, wait, really? And then me going, America!
Can't believe
Honestly, though, that's a pretty cool drawing.
Jared, you want to spit fire?
Squeeze down.
That was very
And then
I don't know why I defaulted
like a
to
dragon.
what you're saying, honestly. I'm sorry.
There's not a lot I can do.
There's no space.
That's enough.
No. Wait, you're low power mode. They can't.
I think I'm done trying to do this.
It's still recording.
I don't
Right.
Oh my god, and then it's into animation.
Okay, well, I know what I need. I mean, I kind of feel like know what I need to have happen. What do you think about this decision, this flat thing up here? Is that a good decision? I can.
I think it gives it a body feel.
We can repeat kind of that detail back here that carries through. What's that?
Connect the two, like the head detail and the tail detail with some kind of roundness or a narrow ridge. Might make it more aggressive.
Something in here?
Something, yeah, exactly.
Really?
I don't know. That may not
That could be where it opens up and you maintain it. We could have like an old school antenna come out of this thing.
Oh, that's
And I get to put Hannah Maxwell right there.
dang it.
What if I beat you there? And said,
You think you can beat
I
me?
drew a really hard
Said my
line.
name is Hannah
Well, you don't have to say it. You can take it.
It's okay. Look how many lines I've got wrong. It's a little too late for me to fix this wing.
I'm thyroid surgery.
I'm Javari. Morrison Jamar.
Poor construction.
Yeah, I still have some. I know. Here's where I am. Shh. If you would give me just a minute. Give me just one more minute, and I'll let you go. As I look through this, and man, I hope that this is communicating as to the purpose of exploratory sketching, right? Now, I'm not designing a consumer product, but at the end of the day, man, I come back to that. Look how much that looks like a bear. How did that happen? But as I go through this, you can see the evolution from here. It's bad, right? It's not good. It's not. Maybe there's something working in this area. That looks like a bear too. Wow. And then you can see kind of the evolution and moving towards something. I will also tell you, I think I've realized that I think I'm going to have to abandon the razor point in lieu. I've just gotten so good. I practice with the ballpoint so often that I feel like I've hit that technique a lot better. But I've got these details that have come up, right? I didn't know exactly what was happening here. This kind of led me to an idea. I do think that I probably need to just dedicate 2 or 3 sketches to what's happening, you know, with the leg. So if I just look at that leg in and of itself, there's a hinge right here. It's opening up. It's getting fatter. It's cut off in a weird way up there. This is somewhat straight, but I'm just gonna have like this. What I'm thinking that I need is something basically like this, just a very simple bracket, and then that bracket also above it might have that gas cylinder that's coming in, and both of these will have these details that hit the foot, and then the foot has the talon. So, you know, there's this little orthographic sketch, and I would tell you, don't be afraid. I mean, I really like to come back. I like my sketchbook to feel like a lot of the sketches are finished, but this one in particular, you know, you don't necessarily need to come back in and add a whole bunch of 3-line weight. If you figured out what it is that you hope to accomplish with this sketch, which is, to me, that relationship. I've figured it out now. I know what I need to have happen here. The next time I draw it, I'll fix that and I'll put it in line. And so I didn't need a perspective. I've done enough of a perspective view for me to understand what needs to happen here. So this orthographic view does everything that I need it to do. I'm going to re-explore. I've got some room up in here. Probably going to take this sketch and redo it down in here. But all right, that's what I got. That's what we got today. Again, have fun with this. I'm trying to do a lot more than I'm asking you to do, but I hope that you see how that process is coming through.
I'm glad you aren't asking